former CCP leader Jiang Zemin has died. Western media praised him for bringing his country out of isolation and leading it to economic prominence. And they attributed China's economic growth to Jiang, while only gently touching on his human rights record. And so media in the West has generally associated Xi Jinping to the Mao's era, while associate Jiang Zemin to Deng Xiaoping's reforms and opening up. However, this view can be very costly to the West. Jiang Zemin is a great actor. On one hand, Jiang Zemin attracted Western businesses and investments, and on the other hand, he warned the CCP that the West threatened their communist ideology and establishment. And Jiang initiated the Golden Shield project, which started the infamous Chinese firewall. His son did the actual work. But who helped Jiang Zemin? Think about it. Well, American high-tech companies. American and Canadian high-tech companies have helped Jiang Zemin and the CCP in turning China into a massive police state. This is a 2011 Stanford University study, the study of the Great Firewall of China. Basically, this study found that the Chinese government collaborated with many research institutes and technology providers from the West. Tsinghua University and Canada's Nortel networks were two organizations that spearheaded the research of the Golden Shield project. Motorola provided wireless communication solutions. Sun Microsystems linked all 33 provincial Chinese police departments through computer networks, and Cisco Systems provided China with routers and firewalls. Cisco has admitted in its deep involvement in the Golden Shield project. One of its presentations acknowledged the repressive use of their technology. It quoted the Chinese government buyers as saying that Cisco's products was to be used to combat Falun Gong. UK's Guardian reported that Cisco made $500 million annually from China. This study was more than 10 years ago, but the collaborations are still ongoing. At the end of last year, and it was a research done by two PhD candidates who specialize in cyberspace security and internet censorship at the University of Oxford and University of Berlin. And they published a report called China's Surveillance State, a global project. And this project concluded that technology made by 7 American companies, these 7 companies continue to facilitate China's surveillance state. And Intel's core processors are likely being used for surveillance in Xinjiang, where a large number of Uyghurs are held, right, in labor camps. And 2 leading U.S. chip companies, Intel and NVIDIA, are involved in building the Chinese police command centers. IBM, Intel, and Oracle are helping building the provincial surveillance system, the very system used in monitoring people at the local level during the COVID lockdowns. Intel and Microsoft are helping with the mobile police terminals. And then the Stanford project also said that after China has developed its sophisticated internet surveillance tools or censorship tools, China exported its technology to countries such as Cuba, Zimbabwe, and Belarus. These high-tech companies are making tons of money from helping totalitarian regimes build the tools used to crack down on their citizens. So you see, Jiang Zemin relied on Western technologies in persecuting the Chinese people. And the most atrocious crime he had committed is forced organ harvesting against the Falun Gong practitioners and other prisoners of conscience. 2 Canadians, David Kilgour and David Matas. Kilgour was the former Canadian Parliament member, and Matas was an international human rights lawyer. They formed an independent investigation team on July 6, 2006. Kilgour and Matas released a report confirming that at least 60,000 organ transplant surgeries were performed in China between 2000 and 2005, and more than 40,000 of these organs were most likely removed from Falun Gong practitioners. And the mastermind behind this atrocity was Jiang Zemin. In the early months of the persecution, Jiang ordered to carry out the persecution in a way that, quote, in his words, ruin Falun Gong's reputation, destroy them financially, and eliminate them physically. And in 2019, the China tribunal, chaired by Sir Jeffrey Nice, who was the prosecutor in the Slobodan Milosevic trial at the Hague International Criminal Court, he stated in the final judgment that Falun Gong practitioners have been one and probably the main source of organ supply, and crimes against humanity has been proven beyond reasonable doubt. And governments and anyone who interacts with China should recognize that they are interacting with a criminal state. The last point, however, has been entirely ignored by the Western business community. Jiang Zemin's crime would not be carried out without the pharmaceutical company's assistance. A nonprofit organization based in the Czech Republic called the Institute to Research the Crimes of Communism published a report titled The Economics of Organ Harvesting in China in December 2019. It states that numerous Western medical and pharmaceutical companies are profiting from forced organ harvesting in China, and at least 20 Western companies, and possibly 28, supplied China with materials, drugs, and devices supporting the business, while being aware of the facts and evidence related to illegal organ harvesting. The revenue of these companies from doing so goes to billions of US dollars every year and shows signs of growing over the last decade. Susie Hughes, executive director of the International Coalition to End Transplant Abuse in China, said, "These companies are in a very powerful position because China's transplant industry would falter without them. It is imperative that they withdraw from China immediately to help save innocent people who are being killed for their organs." Now, when these farmers went to China, it was during the Jiang Zemin time. To remain silent on the issue of Falun Gong was the condition Jiang Zemin demanded from any countries, any organizations, or any businesses who wanted the Chinese market or wanted to build relations with China. Unfortunately, these companies have all complied. Over the long run, they won't have a Chinese market because the Chinese market is made up of the 1.3 billion Chinese consumers. When they build the tools to persecute, to monitor the consumers, I don't think they will have a market. The Chinese government doesn't represent the interest of Chinese consumers, right? So when these high-tech companies have turned against the consumers, and with the ways things are developing in China, where people are protesting openly against the government, I don't think the consumers will be on their side in the long run. In 2001, IBM was sued in New York for its tabulation machines used by the Nazi Germany more than 50 years ago. The machine was made by IBM's German subsidiary. The lawsuit says IBM supplied technology that it knew would be used to facilitate persecution and genocide. The victims of Nazi oppression also brought lawsuits against European banks, insurers, and manufacturing companies. I don't think the Chinese will wait 50 years. They are smart, and we'll figure out that high-tech companies that helped the CCP build the networks to facilitate the persecution and genocide are equally guilty. I think the pharmaceutical companies should stop selling these drugs and devices to China immediately. They should donate all the monies they've made in China to the victims of organ harvesting, Falun Gong and the Uyghurs. High-tech companies like Cisco and Microsoft should also donate a portion of their profit to organizations that develop VPN technologies in China, such as the Internet Freedom Consortium. Okay, if Western businesses don't adjust their China policy and realign themselves with the Chinese market, with the real Chinese market, which is the 1.3 billion Chinese and not the CCP, they will face lawsuits and serious repercussions once the communist regime is overthrown.